Hello and welcome to today's Data Dynamics Platform 3x3 series. I'm your host, Kyle Johnson, Director of Digital Experience here at Data Dynamics, and joining me today is our CEO, Piyush Mehta, to discuss data quality management before, during, and after moving data to the cloud as it regards to the energy industry. Piyush, welcome, and thank you for joining me today.
Hey Kyle, good to be on.
Thank you so much. Let's jump into our first question. As we enter a new era of digital transformation, the energy sector seems to be slower overall in adopting new technologies like AI, machine learning, and others. What are some challenges you're seeing that may be causing that slower pace of adoption?
So the energy sector is going through a transformation in its core business. It's moving from the traditional coal-based energy sources to clean energy. As such, there's a business pivot that's taking place. And in that business pivot, there is a need for a digital transformation. And that digital transformation, core to it, is data. An understanding of the assets they have, an understanding of the sprawl of those assets. If you think of many of the larger players in the oil and gas sector, they are spread across tens of countries, across continents, and have some level of data center footprint in tens, if not hundreds of locations. An understanding of the assets that they have, an accurate inventory, an understanding of the data within the assets that they have. So for example, does it have any kind of personal or business sensitive information, is the key and core first step to determining how and what they do with that data to drive that competitive edge as well as the business transformation.
That's interesting. It sounds like maybe more unique challenges than some of the other industries, but a resonating thing we're hearing across the board about the challenges of data management.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, in the oil and gas or energy sector, the businesses are usually split into upstream and downstream business units. And the upstream business units have a challenge of knowing and making sure that as they think about information or data, how well are they protecting information that could lead to exposure? One of the biggest challenges we see is the exposure of IP addresses that are part of every IoT device in today's world. When they share that with their business partners, with their vendors for maintenance and other reasons, what they're exposing is potential rogue agents being able to access those devices and create havoc. So it is imperative to know not only what data you have, but how can you obfuscate it so that you can share it for the right reasons without giving up the keys to the kingdom.
All right, our second question. Piyush, what in your opinion is the biggest benefit that an energy company could derive from managing their data better?
Competitive intelligence. Being able to leverage information from, let's say, an existing well and the way that the benefits from that well took place in how they mined it, with something that may be from a seismic standpoint very similar. Doing the analytics to know how well to drive that same best practice from location A to B is imperative. The second thing is understanding of data usage, understanding of data patterns, because as they transform into clean energy, those usages and those patterns, let's say downstream, will have an impact in how and what sources they want to use for those constituents and how best to deliver them.
Sounds like there's a lot of opportunity out there, and especially the companies that reach out first and embrace it are going to have a lot of competitive advantage to take advantage of.
Absolutely. I mean, we work with two of the top 4 oil and gas companies in the world. And what we're finding is the challenge is the same regardless of who you are. And core to that is a understanding of the data, a drive for competitive advantage, the acceleration to the cloud so that you could leverage the compute and other burst capabilities that allow you to mine that in a more efficient and effective manner, and a reduction of the overall data sprawl and exposure.
And our last question, we talked about Data Dynamics working with a couple of the major oil and gas companies across the globe. Can you give us an example of what are the kind of benefits Data Dynamics is providing to help the energy sector with their data integration and their data quality management?
Absolutely. First and foremost, we're able to understand data about the data in some of these large players. In one case, they have over 120 locations globally. Being able to understand the data sprawl, is there duplication of data? Is there exposure of data? Is there personal or relevant information in those locations? Is there national sovereignty that plays a game? Because in many of these oil and gas or energy players, they're looking at a cloud-first strategy. So understanding the data from a compliance and governance standpoint helps them determine which cloud provider, which location of those cloud providers from a regional standpoint, they can drive that data footprint to. And then finally, driving intelligence around that data, being able to classify it, being able to tag it so that they can actually derive value rather than simply storing the data. So we're finding that both from an upstream and downstream standpoint, there are multiple different areas where we can help drive an understanding, a migration, a governance, and a security around the data that they have.
Yeah, I mean, it's really a full court press when it comes to the data management. You can't look at each of these challenges in isolation. You really need a holistic approach to understand the full scope of what you're getting into.
Absolutely. Like most enterprise customers, energy sector is no different. They had years and years and years of data continuing to grow and accumulate and not necessarily managed in one consolidated view across the organization. Multiple point solutions, bought, used, not used, and having that aggregate view and driving one aggregate strategy and a platform that can help drive that is extremely important for the energy sector, especially as they pivot as businesses into clean energy.
That's right. Well, Piyush, I want to thank you so much for joining me today and answering our platform 3x3 questions. I want to thank you, all of our viewers, for watching.
Thanks for having me, Kyle. It's good to talk to you.